Restream, and I have Lucia Young with me today. She's over there in Great Britain, and she has had a lot of interesting experiences, probably most of your life, but even in the last 2 or 3 years, I think there have been some very strong and intuitive feelings drawing you in a direction in your experience that you didn't really see coming, like a lot of us. It's just kind of a ever opening and ever unfolding. So thank you so much for coming on with me to do this live stream.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I guess I'll I don't know, start from the beginning. Like
Okay.
I from a really young age I had this reoccurring moment of oneness, I guess I call it, where I just saw, and it was more of a feeling where I just had these glimpses that were quite out of time and I couldn't really explain it. And I talked to people about it and they'd just be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. And I just felt like there was always something else. There was always just something else to head towards. And I think what I did is I thought, oh, okay, I can find that in my career in acting, because it's the flow of acting, it's the flow of being on stage, and you do get those moments when you are lifted up on stage, but they were very far and few between. I didn't have that very much because I had a lot of anxiety actually going on stage, and a lot of people pleasing, a lot of trying to impress, and very recently the course came into my life, and I just felt this big opening where it gave me a different meaning to my life, whereas before I was trying to head towards this career. I was getting really far with the career. I was getting an agent. I was getting jobs. I was getting good auditions for the first time. And that's what I thought for a really long time is what I wanted. I wanted all of these things, and they were for the first time coming in to my life. And but I just felt like, no, this isn't the direction, or it's not how, it's not going to make me happy. I sort of saw my life flash before my eyes actually, and I was like, if I actually head in this direction in this way, I know where it's going to end up. Like, it was making me feel sick. I was coming off stage, and I was backstage thinking, oh, I'm not going on. I remember being backstage and just be like, I'm gonna leg it. Like, I'm gonna leave this. I can't handle this. And I was doing all the coursework as well and feeling all these nerves and feeling that the course talks about it being very acute at times, because it's so become aware of the smallest like the smallest feeling of being uncomfortable or in pain, even to nerves, which I thought nerves were very usual, and suddenly they're not. So it was just so overwhelming being backstage and just shaking there. And luckily the last show that I did was it went fine, luckily, only just got through it. And and then I told my agent, which I recently got, that I was not going to pursue it anymore. And they were like, why? And I couldn't explain it. I couldn't explain why. And then I think everybody around me was just saying, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I just said, I don't know. But I knew with the course that I had a new meaning. I had a direction. I had a manual for where I was gonna head. It was very comforting. And you, David, as well, listening to your teachings for 2 years has just been my lifeline. And I use Spiri as well. Spiri's been so great for me. And and now, really recently, there's just been this huge speed up of things that's happening there's white feathers. Oh my God.
I saw that post on Facebook. White
Yeah.
feathers, exciting. That means something's coming.
Yeah, like divine grace and peace, because I was praying as well as I'm about fear and just sort of the fear of really letting go, the fear of love, and it's getting less and less and less, and it's getting more and more joyful. And I feel like all of these sort of symbols are coming in, and then you rang, and I was just like, wow. This
Uh,
is so it's so lovely, and it's so not what I ever thought could happen, you know? It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
yeah.
I like that part in A Course in Miracles where Jesus is saying it's really not difficult, but it is very, very different. And I think that's because the ego has kind of set plans for us in the world. And even when we're children, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we're kind of primed with these questions to be looking to the future, sometimes I guess in childhood even to the distant future. And then I went through similar things when I was in university. I kept questioning and questioning, and like, what do I really want to do? When I was in high school, my mother sent me on she taught at the same high school where I went. So she was talking to guidance counselors and saying, "Oh, my son, he's very bright, but he's very shy and he just doesn't know what he wants to do with his life. So could you send him off on an adventure for this, engineer for a day or Rotary Club?" And so I had guidance counselors sending me off on trips. And by the time I graduated from high school, I was still clearly, I couldn't really put it into words. I said, I don't know. Nothing really looks that appealing. But then I spent 10 years in university, undergrad and grad, just exploring, talking to people, meeting people from around the world, asking them a lot of questions. What do you find purposeful? What do you find meaningful? And it took me 10 more years of questioning before A Course in Miracles kind of dropped in my lap. And then suddenly things started to move very swiftly in a wonderful way, meeting people and doors opening, but not in any kind of direction that I had planned
Mm,
or that I could even imagine. I couldn't even imagine the things that have happened. I feel like I had no clue what was
yeah.
there. So I think you're kind of at that point too, where, I guess it's been, how long has it been since you kind of stepped away from acting? How long has it been?
I think around a year and a half now. Yeah, around a year and a half. And I still pray. I still go, oh Spirit, use my abilities, use my acting abilities for the good of the whole. Like I love Shakespeare so much,
Yeah,
and I read a lot of Shakespeare and his speeches and stuff. And it's so alongside the course, they're just brilliant. So I'm hoping one day maybe I'll be used in that way, and then it's just a whole different way of using your skills, isn't it? It's just a whole
yeah,
there'd be no element, it'd be all giving, so there'd be no element of trying to make something, of
yeah,
myself, which is just so painful. It's
yeah.
just so painful and not joyful. It's just yeah. So hopefully that will come into my life at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did. This past year, I did a movie, more of a modern day Shakespeare movie, which I did on one of my Saturday movie workshops. And it was in his life after the his theater had burned down,
Mm,
going back to his wife and his daughters, and basically facing a lot of things that he wrote about and he put in his plays and his sonnets and everything, but he had to really face them in a kind of a real concise period of time. And I just thought it was masterful. And so when I go in to do a Shakespeare movie or I do something on Albert Einstein or whatever, I really plunge into the spirit, how it poured through him. And
yeah.
then, That's
Yeah.
just amazing. That's like
Yeah.
a primer.
Yeah. And performing Shakespeare feels that way. It feels so inspired. You don't even have to sort of do anything. It's like that when I used to study at drama school, it felt so like effortless because you'd just be reading and I didn't know why at the time actually. I was like, why is it so easy? Why is it so easy to speak his words and perform his words and to lose myself? Like I didn't even have any sort of thoughts about how I'm doing or because it was so joyful. And it's because his words are spirit led. They are just so inspired.
Yeah, yeah,
And they're just so yeah, they're just so much fun and now I know why.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's
And
beautiful.
that's why yeah,
I was
yeah.
saying, you know how you say you have these skills now, you have acting skills, and you probably have done things. I think I remember reading about audio skills or video skills, and so it's tied in. Theater is a medium. Using the voice, using the acting and the body in that way, you're talking about it kind of if there are even actors and actresses watching, they're like, wow, I love that feeling of like you just jump right in with Shakespeare and it's
Yeah,
almost effortless because it's something's coming through you that you really value and you really resonate with.
yeah, yeah. And from a really young age as well, I used to go and watch it at the Globe Theatre. We used to stand in the ground, called
Ah,
the groundlings.
yes,
And, yeah, I just look up at the actors and just think, "Wow, this is hitting a really deep place," you know? It's really and I use theatre as well as like a I'd say to Jesus, like you do with films, like, "Show me what you want me to see in this show, like, show me what you want me to learn," or, inspire me, and, yeah, it's just lovely, yeah. So I really hope I get to do it again,
yeah,
actually. Read all the plays again and everything and use them in a way that's gonna help release release ego ideas and concepts and yeah,
like an
yeah,
inspired way. Like that's
yeah.
what I see my time with the course has been is I've just seen all these people that have kind of shown up with this great desire to let the spirit use them in some way that brings a blessing to the whole universe. I mentioned some years ago we would do pretty much every year this. I'm at this Course in Miracles monastery out here in rural Utah, and we have a campground. We built a stage, and we set thing. We did it like a festival, and musicians and singers came from all over. And then we thought, wow, it's an amazing music festival. We called it Strawberry Fields Forever, kind of like the Beatles. Strawberry
Mm,
Fields Forever.
mm,
Nothing is real, nothing to get hung about. We just got into the joy of that, and then we said, well, let's do a mu- music festival and enlightenment festival and movie festival. So we started showing movies, and every year we would do these. But the people that showed up, they showed up from Europe, from Australia, from China, from Japan, from all over the place in this synergy of let's have some fun together and do collaborations and let's undo the ego together. Let's
yeah,
have some fun with it. And then one year, I mentioned to you earlier, a friend from Belgium. She completely made it to New York City, and she was just starting her career as a Broadway singer, and she came instead to Strawberry Fields Forever Festival and then never looked back and
mm,
never went back to her career. Another woman said, oh, I would love to come and participate. And we said, okay, where are you coming from? India. Uh, what are you doing in India? Well, I'm coming across your teachings, David, and the great non-dual traditions. And she studied Meher Baba and followed. Uh, he's the enlightened master with the big handlebar mustache. If you ever
mm,
see him, and she said, I want to come. I said, well, what do you do? She said, oh, I was an actress, actually a pretty famous Bollywood actress. I've been in many. I've had a whole career with Bollywood and with all kinds of things. She came over. She was going around with a microphone interviewing people, very comfortable in front of a camera. So she was interviewing people at the festival. And then in the end, the biggest book that I have, which it's called Unwind Your Mind Back to God. It's actually 3 books in one. It's kind of a compilation of all the work I did with students back in the 1990s on how to trace things back from issues in the world, like financial issues, relationship issues, sickness issues, and symptoms. How do you get them back to a point of thought and belief where you can let it go and choose the miracle instead? So she said, oh, what I really would like to do would be record and do an audio book of Unwind Your Mind Back to God, with her kind of Indian British sounding accent. And I said, that's the largest book that I have. That's like 3 books in one. So she recorded the entire book, chapter by chapter by chapter, section by section, the whole thing. And I have it on a SoundCloud account, where I just have Unwind Your Mind, and people go in there and they listen to her voice, uh, speaking the words that came through me actually many years ago, back in the like 1990s when I was working with the students. So I find that that's our skills and abilities do get used. It's not just that we go in a cave somewhere necessarily and meditate and leave everything behind. It's actually the Spirit seems to want to use our skills in a way that brings joy, that brings happiness, and maybe doesn't even feel like we're working. That's even the best. Like we're just having some fun.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was gonna record one of your books as well, David. I just felt really inspired, and I have recording equipment, so I thought, oh, do you know what? I just feel really inspired to just record it, and just, for my own mind, it's such an amazing way to just, fall back into the flow of it, and have it go deeper and deeper and deeper into the mind. So, oh yeah, I was gonna message Linda and just say I've done this book. You can use it
Yeah,
if you like. One of your
yeah.
one of your
That's what I
books.
had in mind too when I heard that you had some skills in that area. I thought, we were just starting to. This Tarana Singh, this beautiful actress, had recorded the largest book, and then another friend of mine, Emily, who's married to Jason, who's here, and she's over there at a family reunion at Ireland right now. But she's a trained opera singer, so she's been trained in Italy and Ireland, and she left her opera career to dive into this, and she's been in our community. And the first time I talked to her, I said, "Why don't you come and sing at the Strawberry Music Festival?" So she had this booming opera voice that kind of echoed throughout the whole canyon when she finally got out there and sang. But she felt recently that she said, I want to record one of David's books, but it's brand new for me. She'd never ever done anything like that. So she picked the smallest one. It was a little pamphlet called Purpose is the Only Choice. And she said, I'm going to try this one out. So she did that one. So yeah, there's lots to pick from. We'll definitely talk to Linda and Susan and some of the people that are working with that area right now. Maybe that could be, if you come to Mexico, maybe that could be one of the things you set aside a little time during the day to have a quiet place and record away.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I would totally love that. That'd be lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you've gone for this now, I've seen you on some of the online events, just linking in that way. And so you watched a lot of the videos and checked out some things that way. But it sounds like for the last year and a half, you've just given yourself permission to kind of move away from a very busy life in London, to move back with your parents, and then just take that time to really follow your heart. Read the books you want to read, watch the things you want to watch. And I know you said with the course, you could go a couple hours with the course before you fall asleep, but then you would just listen to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I needed a change up of medium.
Yeah.
I'd do a couple of hours and then maybe watch a film with a commentary, or watch one of your YouTube videos, or listen to Gary Renard's books as well. But yeah, I was very busy, and I just felt like I wasn't giving myself any time to just relax and sit and really follow my intuition and follow what I really wanted in my heart. And when I kind of the last year that I had in London, I actually got a really great job in a well, once I quit acting, I still had to pay a bit. I still had to be paying rent, and I had some debts to pay as well. And so I said to Spirit, just give me a job that's really chilled out and that I can just sort of sit and listen to stuff or read. And that's exactly what I got. I just got this little job that was 10 minutes down the road in a shop that had a that no one came in. I don't know how they stayed alive, but they did. No one came in, and it had a little sofa in the back, so I just go and sit and read and listen to stuff and cry on the floor, and just let myself sort of go,
Yeah.
like feel everything. And luckily I just had the space to do that, and then some customer would walk in and I'd have to like
The rare customer. Oh, you.
I had to like hide my tears. And yeah, and so that was for like a year. So I feel like a lot of healing has happened in that time.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of just gone to the next step where I'm not working at all, and I'm volunteering with the social media team because I want to keep my days sort of doing something, towards giving, and seeing now that is the next step, is just to give. So I don't, it's like one of your videos, fight the ego or be used by the spirit. And I think for a while I've been fighting the ego, like, oh, a lot of guilt, I do this and that, and all these thoughts, these negative thoughts shouldn't be there, or these attack thoughts, oh my gosh, I'm terrible, and then you just fall into this pit of despair. And it was Ken actually who said to me, you need to start giving now. It's time to give. And I was like, of course, like giving and receiving are the same, so it's time to give now.
Yeah.
And that's what's made me apply to come to community, because I just would like to spend my days, giving in that way, and the ego can just burn out.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just fizzle out.
Fizzle out, fade away. Well,
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're mentioning that, because when we think of generosity and we think of giving, we don't always take that all the way back to God. Like, God only gives, like the sun just shines and God just gives. And then we have this very strange belief, ego belief, called reciprocity, which can sometimes seem to involve giving to get. It's like an exchange principle, which is what careers are about and everything. Even though we have people like St. Francis, who seem to be quite simple and quite loving, and would just be very prayerful and loving and be in that giving mode. And even his prayers, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. And everything that came from him was like Shakespeare. It was very, very beautiful. And for us to start to accept that giving, like God gives, can be very natural. That is we were created as a gift and spirit, and we can give, and even for a period of what seems to be time, we can still use the time for giving, focus our time on the giving. It seems to take a lot of trust. People would say, well, you have to have a lot of faith and trust, because where are you going to get what you need? And then the faith comes in where, well, maybe if I just give and give and give, that everything will be provided. That's what Jesus was teaching us, look at the lilies of the field. They neither spin nor toil, and look how they're provided, even greater than Solomon. All these beautiful metaphors and symbols throughout history, St. Francis and Mother Teresa and many mystics and saints seem to have this radiance and this glee and joy, and things seem to work out. The Mother Teresa needed plane tickets, to get around between India and other countries, and they seem to be there. And so they didn't really adhere to this reciprocity idea. They really trusted that if they served God and tried to give like God gives, that everything would just work out. So to me, those are the kind of things that go on. I mean, I know that you had sent in an application, and I think maybe yesterday or something, Lisa sent me the application. I went, oh, hi, Lucia. Yes, I know. Yes, Lucia, what a beautiful heart. And then she sends me the application, and then this morning she just sent me a little video thing that you had done, and I just thought, oh, how delightful, how absolutely delightful. And then they always ask me, they say, well, what about being part of like internship program or this or that or scholarship and everything? And I'm like, yeah, it's all based on the giving. When we have the desire to give, then the things just click and flow and fall into place, really, I think effortlessly, when we just go for the highest calling, what's the deepest feeling in our heart, then everything else just clicks and flows. So
Yeah.
what an amazing journey
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with the giving, it's like you said, the ego comes in with reciprocity, or what is it going to take? Like how much is going to be asked of me, or how much is going to be taken from me? I think I've always lived with that feeling, like. But then the course talks about it being giving out of self-interest, and then it becomes fun because it's like, oh wow, it's giving out of self-interest, and it's just the swell that happens in your heart every time you do it, and it's like I never knew it could be that way. I never knew it could be so joyful, and then I'm getting all the reflections back of that, same thing, even with my family at the moment. Just like I always thought I was sort of trapped in this kind of fight between giving but also following my intuition of what I want to do, but also what someone else wants me to do. And that always felt like butting heads. It's
Yeah,
like, oh, but I don't want to. But there's another way. There's another way, which is the middle way of giving, which the ego doesn't tell you about. It just tells you there's only two ways, and they're both fearful, and
yeah,
they're both kind of like separating. They separate us from each other and from God, and it's like, no, there is another way. There really is. And I'm so grateful. Like I'm just so grateful to like, oh my gosh, find this other way. It's just like,
yeah,
oh, thank God,
yeah,
thank God.
yeah. Yeah, it seems to have to get our attention because we're used to, some people when we're growing up, they say, well, you have to get all that you can get, and then because you're going to die anyway, so you might as well get while the getting's good. While you have life, why don't you use it for getting? And then there's the giving to get, like, well, yeah, of course, everybody has to compromise, and you can't do everything that you love, and the world's and the ego is telling us, oh, of course you're going to have to compromise, but you do it so you can get what you need. And you can give some, but just make sure you get what you need. And then now I found in my life, when I just kind of prayed and focused on the giving aspect, like that giving feeling in my heart, wanting to be just give and be generous, that everything flowed so effortlessly, and I didn't really have to think about the getting at all. Uh,
Yeah.
because there was only a grievance with getting, or there was only an expectation, like, oh, I should have received this, or I should get this. And I thought, yeah, I think I would rather live without expectations, just to be in giving mode, because I'm happy when I'm giving. And then I can kind of actually trust. I'm willing to take steps that in the past, I might have questioned or analyzed or doubted. I'm willing to take those steps, and then everything works out beautifully. So it's like a whole different mode of being, is what it
Yeah,
seems.
yeah. And like keeping the metaphysics of the course, that's always helpful. Like knowing the truth behind it is just
Yeah,
that change of mind that giving and receiving are the same. Otherwise, if I forget that, it can fall into a little bit of feeling, put upon or whatever. But if I keep the metaphysics of the truth in
yeah,
mind, then it just becomes more and more natural.
yeah,
It's,
yeah.
yeah,
How
yeah.
beautiful! How beautiful to follow your heart like that and go for it, and then and let things show up. I think too, when people feel like they want to give and they want to really follow their heart, but there's just these unconscious expectations. Maybe it's expectations around parents or family, or around a boyfriend or girlfriend or husband, wife, or sometimes people have expectations even around spiritual community. I always think I'm in community with everyone. So I
Mm,
never draw a ring. Like I'm in with the chipmunks and the rabbits. I'm in just as much community with them as I am with the people or with anyone in society. And I think that's kind of important. I remember I was watching maybe last week. I saw a video on the internet, and it was of a woman who was a singer. She had a beautiful voice, and she just loved to sing. And then she got an invitation from a man named Siddhartha, who said, "Oh, I would love to come. Would you come to where I'm living, and would you sing? I would love to, play the guitar, and I would like to sing with you." And she's like, "Well, I don't know. I have to pray about that." But turned out he was in Muji's community, and she was being invited into Muji's community to use her singing voice. Well, as soon as she found out it was a community, she said, "Well, now I really have to pause and like I didn't see myself like in a community." And then she thought, well, I don't even want to be in another relationship. She said, "Oh, they're so sticky and messy." But here's a guy inviting me. So she goes over, she meets Siddhartha, she starts singing in the satsangs and everything, and she starts to just feel her heart opens up, and she just gets happier and happier and happier. And then she gets married to Siddhartha, and that's where she is right now. She's actually part of the community, and she just sings at the satsangs and is practicing a life of devotion and a life
mm,
of giving, which is so different from all of her career ideas and whatever she had planned for her life. And she was just bubbling those. She said, "I didn't plan to go to the community. I didn't plan to get married to this guy, Siddhartha, but it just kind of unfolded in a way that she felt her heart opened up." And she said, "I feel more connected and more open-minded than I've ever felt in my whole life, but I don't even know how I got here." I mean, one
yeah.
minute I was just thinking and trying to solve all these issues in my mind, and the next minute I'm married and I'm in this community and I'm getting to sing for joy,
Mm,
not as a kind of like a career. So it's kind of an interesting movement of things.
yeah. Yeah, and I felt as I've got more and more joyful, the reflections of my relationship with my boyfriend or my parents are just yeses now. They're just kind of like, "I wanna go to spiritual community." "Okay, great." Like, my boyfriend said that, "I just want you to be happy. I just you go." And it's just so nice, and earlier I was listening to your video on it's all a perceptual problem. It's all a perceptual problem. All of it is just a perceptual problem, and it's kind of for the first time today, actually, it's really starting to sink in now, really starting to sink in that there aren't any problems. It is just perceptual problem. And I felt in my heart that everyone was with me. I just felt so like everyone's with me anyway. So so it's like all of these worry thoughts about what my boyfriend would think or what my parents would think, or all of this, they just went away, because it was just like, oh, we're there together anyway. And
Yeah.
it's just such a nice feeling.
Yeah.
And then and then all these white feathers.
That's
Wow.
the latest symbol. White
Yeah,
feathers in your garden.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
beautiful.
So,
It's so
but
obvious. Hmm.
yeah, but definitely over the last 2 years, it's been like a big thing of all of these worry thoughts, all of these thoughts around what people are gonna think, and I had a lot of reflections of those doubt thoughts. I had thoughts, is it a cult from my parents? They cult things and stuff like that, and yeah, and just slowly over time, it's just got less and less as my doubt thoughts have got less and less. They have been reflected to me less and less, and it's yeah, it's just been so amazing, so amazing. Yeah,
Oh,
and
I'm so
there's
happy.
no brainer, isn't it? It's just like
Yeah.
you just follow your joy, and that's where it's at.
Yeah, that's so beautiful though that you had some people that were very close to you that were giving you a big yes, like go for it. I want you to be happy. You know, for some people it does go that way and they feel like, "Oh my gosh, now this is so perfect to have these beautiful positive reflections." And other people have maybe left situations or things where they felt it was incomplete or unresolved or something. And I think that's pretty common for people in the world. Although for people who read the course and they start to like really immerse their mind, like hours and hours a day, something starts to happen internally where we start to build our faith and our trust that things are going to work out just beautifully, and it kind of starts to wash away a lot of the fear and the doubt thoughts,
Mm,
because many of us were raised to be very analytical and to have what they call be very critical thinking. You know, it sounds kind of funny. Critical thinking sounds very serious, but I think it just meant like explore and investigate. And I think when you really do feel called by spirit, of course you explore and investigate things. You're drawn to things. Certain things resonate with you, and you immerse yourself in them. That's what happened to me with the course. I just kept immersing for like 8 hours a day,
mm,
not really knowing where I would be guided to go or what I would be guided to do. But after a while, it didn't really seem to much matter. I just became more content to just listen and follow in the moment,
mm,
and take it in small pieces, like little bites. And and the trust seemed to grow stronger when I did that than me sitting around trying to plan 5 years or 10 years into the future. That
mm,
just seemed like very difficult for me
yeah,
to go that far into the future.
yeah. Yeah, and I've always felt just you just wanna be at peace. You just wanna feel peace and happy and joyful,
Yeah.
and that's the prime goal. That's the prime This is what it's heading towards, and the ego is not that. The ego is just pain. That's what it's the experience that it's been for me. Like, I've been through a hell of a time, really,
Yeah.
and, like, before the course came into my life, I went into a clinic for a little bit. I was very depressed, and I had bulimia, and I was very, very down, and I actually had a moment where I was just like, I'm not here. Like, I'm not here. Like, I'm somewhere else, and not in a good way. Like, I'm somewhere else, or I want to be somewhere else. This can't be it. There was somewhere in my mind that was like, this
Mm.
cannot be it. This is like, yeah, there is something else. And yeah, so I think it's always just been it's always the experience, just going for the experience, and going for the experience of peace of mind. And, yeah. What else, where else can you go? Where else can you, other than really wanting happiness and really just heading towards that in whatever way you can, and in those really small steps as well, like being gentle with yourself, definitely I've learned that. Be gentle. I think right at the beginning I was hammering it home a bit too much. I
Mm.
was kind of forcing it down myself and forcing it down other people as well. Not in a great way. And I got the reflections of, "No, leave me alone. I don't wanna
Yeah,
do the course."
yeah,
That's what my
yeah,
friend said. He said, "I love what you're saying, but I'm not doing the course. I'm not
yeah,
doing," you know,
yeah,
and but now he's a beautiful reflection of, like, opening up and, like, says, "What's the lesson for today?" to me sometimes, or, you
yeah,
know, he wants to talk about it, and yeah, I think it resonates. It's yeah.
yeah.
So
It's beautiful. It's more like just natural, a natural unfolding. Like I think a lot of times when people think about religion or spirituality, they're kind of put off by, oh my gosh, I don't want to get off into something or carried away by something, and what do I have to give up? And the old thing, my gosh, what will be asked of me? And I find that the spirit is so gentle and uses everything that we've learned and is kind of just tweaking. He's like repurposing skills and abilities, reinterpreting things that we even developed on an ego level. Those skills are just really neutral to the spirit, but the spirit's like, oh yeah, here, let me use them, and you'll see how much fun you can have. You'll find you can have joy and happiness and peace and laughter, and it's a gentle kind of reinterpretation. And I
mm,
think that's a good way. If it is a perceptual problem, and then when you are lifted out of that into a state of mind that is very still, then you're just grateful. You're just left with gratitude, like it all got used. So
mm,
I know with so many people, they've even said, well, I have skills that there's no way that the Holy Spirit can use. And I would say, you'd be surprised, because don't close your mind so quickly and just label these skills as totally ego or totally of the world, because the spirit can look at Shakespeare, use words in the most eloquent, philosophical, profound way.
mm,
Um, we love watching a great movie where, I'll see, there's a movie called Time Traveler's Wife, and it's so well done. I think originally Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston were supposed to be the, the couple in it, but then they split up, and then they left the movie, and two more came in, and it's such a beautiful movie that by the end of the movie you're left with this feeling of love, just your heart opening up. And I used to say, wow, that's such a well-made teaching learning device for opening to love, Time Traveler's Wife. And then I was traveling in Northern California, and they said, well, the screenwriter of that, the one who wrote the screenplay for that, he would like to meet with you. He would like you to come to his house. So I thought, cool, I love it when I meet screenwriters or whatever, because I'm so touched by the movie itself. But now, so I go to his house and I meet him, and he had also written a screenplay Ghost with Demi Moore, and some other movies that I felt were very, very helpful. Very skilled writer. And I told him, I said, well, I like to use movies to retrain the mind and open the mind up. And he said, how do you do that? He was so used to screenwriting just as a career, and he was
mm,
just getting interested in his spiritual journey. So we had a fascinating talk. But
mm,
I find that the spirit brings us together in order to reinterpret the world in a beautiful way. And I enjoy all these encounters that I've had with this same man. He said, "Oh, he, he said I saw the movie Awake with about Yogananda's life." And I said, "Oh yeah, that was a great movie." And he said, no, I didn't like it. And that was like, I've talked to 200 people. I have 200 people tell me they like it. And now I'm sitting and I'm saying, fascinating. tell me what you didn't like about Yogananda's movie Awake, because this is like a master screenwriter. And he said, well, there were so many mystical experiences in it, and so many transcendent moments in it, that he says, I don't think average people could relate as well, because there were so many mystical experiences in it. I said, hmm. And he said, I like to craft a screenplay so that people are drawn in through the characters and through the interactions, and their heart opens up through that. And I said, I can totally see that too. I can see the gift, the blessing in that too, because I've seen so many movies that are just so well done that you just feel your heart opening just through following the characters. So we
Mm,
had a beautiful talk, and we talked about practicality, keeping it simple and doing what you love, and giving your blessing, your gift to the world. And it
mm,
turned
yeah,
into an amazing interaction.
yeah, yeah. I always think about unworthiness with that, and feeling where before the course I could watch a film like that and feel like, oh well, of course this enlightened being is special. But Jesus says in the course, we are equal learners. That's what I read
Yeah.
today. And he
Yes.
just, again and again, he just says, we're equal, we're equal. Please listen to me, we're equal. I'm just like, okay, I get it, we're equal, we're equal. So now watching Awake, yeah, we watched it the other day actually. And Yogananda saying, we are the same.
Yeah.
We are the same. Like, I'm not, your guru is in here.
Yeah.
Your guru is like, "My guru has died, what am I gonna do?" No, your guru is in here. And it's just like, yes, wow, like, they're so empowering.
Yeah.
And I never thought that I could feel that way, because without the course, I never thought, it's just like, "Oh, that's a nice thing for people to
Yeah.
happen to people, that's great. I don't understand it. I feel like I'm drawn to it, but I don't know, hopefully one day, one
Yeah.
lifetime." I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, we're equal. We're equal in mind.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's I'm always looking for ways to use anything in the world for that connecting, that deep connecting. And it's been amazing in our seeming lifetimes, the technological advances. A friend of mine, Francis Zhu, had edited a movie put together so the community could watch it, about George Lucas, of the Star Wars movies, an amazing, open-minded person who just took on one advance after another of technology, and they would just get a group of people together, and they'd have people in the movie industry saying, "Well, yeah, what you're talking about can't be done," and they would just all get in a room
Yeah.
and just let's do it. And they
Mm.
kept expanding so much in order to do what had never been done before, and then do it again, something else what had never been done before. And I think
Mm.
that's a good symbol for spiritual awakening, where you're stretched or you're expanded beyond the past, beyond of what you believed you were capable of. And then you
Mm.
find yourself being used in very miraculous, extraordinary ways. But there's a natural feeling like, oh yeah, it's like the spirit's doing it. You're just
Mm.
beholding, it happen. So I think probably maybe some weeks ago, I started talking in the community about, I said, there's some kind of new shift coming, the use of technology, because I told him I'm into the present moment. I want to just link with people in the moment spontaneously. Like today, I just had thought, I saw on Facebook about white feathers, and then it came to call you, and then here we are. you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm free. I'm free all day. Well, what about now? I'm
Yeah.
kind of what about now feeling. So we're working on a thing called Living Miracles Oracle, uh, and a living oracle, I think is what they're calling it, but it's going to be using technology to meet together on the internet, like spontaneously, like we did today and we're doing right now, and
Mm,
in a number of different ways be able to just share from the heart, extend the gifts, uh,
mm,
extend the presence. So that's
mm,
kind of exciting too. You know, you're just looking at maybe coming over right at the time where we're having a lot of new ideas bubble, and
yeah,
that's very exciting.
yeah, yeah. So exciting. Yeah.
Well,
Mm,
thank you so much. This has been just so delightful, just talking about the natural unfoldment of how things go, because it seems like when we get called away from the the traditional and the conventional ways, sometimes that the ego can be very harsh. But it
mm,
sounds like you've just been deep diving into the course and
mm,
having lots of miracles and mind expanding experiences, like those oneness experiences that you have had for some time in your life. And
mm,
now it's just kind of forming into like a direction or a calling, the calling of the moment, where there's something strong calling you, and to be able to even talk about that, and
mm,
articulate that is really amazing too, because I know just our conversation here will bless so many.
mm.
They just tune in and they watch it and they say, wow, I
Yeah,
really felt something when this was said or when that was said. And yeah, it just gets opened.
yeah, yeah. And I think recently I had the thought about fear underneath it, you know, the fear that stops you from doing something, but it's very different fear. It's a fear of healing. It's a the feeling of fear is like a perceptual problem, but it's there and used in a completely different way. It's like, what is this fear for? This fear is for the Holy Spirit. This fear is for healing. So it's like the Holy Spirit uses everything. It uses the emotions, it uses the fear, and they will disapparate because having fear about coming to community, I just was filling out the application or thinking about it, and I was like, oh no, I'm too fearful. I'm too fearful. You know, there's too much fear here. But then there's the joy on top of it that's driving it. It's not, it can't stop. It can't stop you. You know, it's like it can't, yeah. And it's not to be hidden from either, these fearful emotions. It's not like before where it's like, oh, suppress, you know, you're fearful, you're crying, you're upset, don't talk to anyone about it, or someone's going to ask you reasons why you're so upset and you can't talk about it, you can't talk about it. The whole point of the spiritual journey is to feel everything. All of those emotions are so welcome. And with meeting Anna, she was just like, every part of you is welcome. Every part of you, all of you is welcome. And I just was like, oh my gosh, every part of me is welcome. The fear, the anger, like all of it is so welcome. And I was just like, wow. And having someone else say that gave me permission to do that for myself as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh wow, you know, it's not like I'm, you know, have to be all spiritual or whatever. It's just it's all there to be burned away by the light, but it's all welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's beautiful to see it in those terms, because I was talking to someone last night and they were saying, it's someone here, a volunteer at the community here at the monastery, and they've been doing a lot of work on heating and air conditioning units and things, and there was a company that was coming in, and there were these young workers who were just had a lot of tattoos all over their arms and their own way of living and being, and he was just kind of openly sharing with her, yeah, when I heard it was a monastery, I was like, oh no, I've got to go, work for my job at this monastery, and they're going to see my arms and my tattoos, everything, and and he was thinking, I guess maybe he just had monastery ideas of traditional monasteries that, oh, this isn't going to fit well, and I'm going to get judged, and all these things, and he's just prancing around here, having so much fun doing things, loving, sharing, the connecting, because it's, yeah, it's a perceptual problem. But when you just follow your joy and you don't, um, you let go of the thoughts of those judgments, then actually it's quite delightful. You can really have these wonderful encounters and have a lot of fun. So that's what, there's a whole group of them here today, from a company called Oi Boys. Even the names are funny. Oi Boys are doing the heating cooling, and they're just, it's a mix of people. You know, it's, we're all in this together. We're all being used by the Spirit for the same purpose. And when we keep that in mind, it's a joyful experience. There is no dividing lines. You know, why would we make dividing lines between anyone when really we're all the same one? And we're here to recognize that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you if you make it to Mexico or wherever. I think we've got a group of interns coming together, and that should be a delightful experience. And I'm so glad you could take the time so spontaneously to be with me on a live here today. Yeah.
Oh, love you.
Love you too. Thank you, Lucia.